Okay, you're good.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to call to order the Pentucket Regional School Committee meeting of August 18th, 2020. Roll call vote. Wayne Adams.
You're on mute.
Wayne Adams.
Yes.
Joanna Blanchard.
Here.
Bill Buell.
Here.
Emily Dwyer.
Here.
Marie Falzani.
Here.
Dick Hodges.
Here.
Lisa O'Connor.
Here.
Chris Redding.
Here.
And Dina Trotta here.
4.6.
Okay, can I please, actually, I need to amend the agenda. Can I get a motion to X out the meeting, the minutes from business meeting August 4th?
Second.
Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Bill?
Bill hear us?
I don't know. Emily?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
And Dina? Yes. Did I get everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Bill?
Bill, can you hear us? We can't hear you. There's something wrong with your mic.
All right. Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Dina? Yes. Could I get a motion to accept the finance subcommittee meetings from August 4th, 2020?
Move business meeting August 4th, 2020.
Finance.
Sorry, finance subcommittee.
Oh, all right.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Dina? Yes. Okay, now we have subcommittee updates. The finance committee? Updates?
Nothing.
Nothing. Teaching, learning, and accountability? Emily?
Sorry,
Okay.
we have nothing to report.
Okay. Policy committee, Marie?
Yes, we met August 6th, from 2 to 4, and we went over some COVID policies, and we're meeting again on this Friday, 8/21, from 9 to 11.
Thank you. And then the school committee goals?
We're covered in the business agenda items.
Great. Now we'll move on to superintendent news. Justin?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just want to go over a few things. One, technology survey went out and was sent out to all parents yesterday about 5:30. If you could please complete that, if you're watching this, if you could please complete it by Monday, that would be fabulous. Actually, you have to unmute because we can't hear. Sorry.
I know one that can hear him.
We got you, Wayne, we're sorry. So we are not one-to-one, so, and that's one of the questions that's come up, is everybody, we are not a one-to-one district, we're a bring your own device district. So we are asking people if they have a device that qualifies for that survey, say, yes, you can bring your own device. So we can identify those people who do not have devices. As we mentioned before, we have a large order that went in a month ago. so that we could get more Chromebooks in. But even with those, they will not be one-to-one. So we're asking people to please fill out that technology survey. If you were given a Kentucky Chromebook in the spring, you still have that, so please write down the tag number so we can verify.
We cannot hear you.
School committee know we did have our building admin professional development yesterday and today. We've covered a large amount of topics, obviously. Protocols, procedures were a big topic. As
We cannot hear Justin. It's reverberating. You cannot hear him.
It's going to happen for a little bit. Sorry.
What can you do to fix it?
Justice issues that we talked about as well, Title IX, the changes in the law. So that was a very productive couple of days. Building walkthroughs, so we've done walkthroughs in all of our buildings, just going through everybody's shoes. If you were a teacher, student, custodian, like what does that look like from a day-to-day standpoint, even if you're in the front office? What does that look like? So we've been gone through with facilities folks, Board of Health individuals, just to make sure we dot our i's, crossed our t's. And the plan was updated last week, so if you go into the plan, you look at the appendices, and at the end of the plan, you'll see that there are additional information. I think most people got that information on an email, which leads us into, if you are an individual or family that selected the remote only, that survey is due by tomorrow night, so please complete that survey. We need to know who is going to be fully remote and what their plans are, so that we can best make the accommodations that necessary. That is what I have.
Great.
What can people do to fix this reverberation? Because I can't vote on anything tonight.
It'll be after public comment, it'll go away.
Well, then I think in the future we should have superintendent's news after public comment.
Lisa, can you repeat that?
In future meetings, I want to have the superintendent's news after public comment. If I have to listen to that again, I will not attend.
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna go for public comment.
Bill, you're not on mute on mine. We can see you and you're live.
Okay, I'm admitting Liz Wisneski into public comment. Hi, Liz.
You're on mute on yours.
Hear me? Okay, you can hear me? Okay. Hello again, school committee. I'm Liz Wisneski, a 6th grade teacher at Bagnell and the head of a PAT team charged with evaluating the reopening of Pentucket schools. I would like to clarify an issue that was raised at the last school committee meeting, which is very important as Pentucket moves forward with their hybrid reopening plan. Last week, Dr. B discussed a letter that the PAT sent to the school committee. That letter, in part, addressed our concerns around the lack of teacher input in the development of the hybrid plan. I hope to add some clarity to the concerns expressed in that letter. While teachers were given the hybrid reopening plan, we have not had genuine input into the plan. While there was a level of transparency, there was no real collaboration with the people who will be mainly carrying out the day-to-day details of the hybrid plan. Classroom teachers, special education teachers, specialists, and paraprofessionals. We simply were told what the plan was, period. As far as I know, no classroom teacher specialist or special education teacher was asked if the Pentucket hybrid plan was feasible. As far as I know, no classroom teacher specialist or special education teacher was asked to give input into the details of the plan. Teachers were not even invited to participate in the classroom walkthroughs recently done. While teachers did ask questions at a virtual Q&A with administration, I would not go so far as to say that all questions were addressed or even answered. Rather, the more difficult questions asked were simply read and superficially responded to with no real answers. Thus, because of the lack of correct collaboration, Pentucket has an unfeasible plan. The plan involves changes to working conditions that are not only objectionable, but frankly, impossible. The expectations that teachers will prepare for and assess all in-class and remote students with what can only be described as inadequate support is untenable. The idea that teachers will be able to march through all the state standards with less instructional time under a wholly different pedagogical approach with Pentucket's characteristic lack of curriculum materials is an exercise in magical thinking. The PAT wants to make it loud and clear that these expectations, while they answer many parent concerns, are simply impractical. We have been presented with the hybrid plan. We have heard of other changes around remote instruction since then and reductions to planning time that have only heightened our concerns. We feel it's important that you understand that we view the current hybrid proposal, yet not necessarily all hybrid proposals, as unworkable on many important fronts. We will continue to reach out to you regarding these concerns, and we ask that you reach out to us so that we can have input into a feasible plan for reopening. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have about my comments, and thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, next up. Next up is Christine. No? I guess. All right, next up is Jamie Paragus. I hope I didn't slaughter that name.
Wait, anybody? Here we go. She's muted.
I know, I tried to unmute.
Do you want to unmute her and unmute yourself and tell her she's unmuted?
I can't. I can't, Jamie, you're unmuted. I'm sorry, you are muted.
Can you send her a message through Zoom chat?
I saw that
On the Zoom, Bill?
can I go to Zoom and get in?
No, because we're getting on.
Yeah, we'll be out of Zoom once the public comment is done.
Because I can't participate if I can't comment, and
Jamie, we can't hear you.
I can hear Bill now.
Yeah, now you can. Yeah, I just, Bill, you're in now, Bill. Sorry. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Emily can hear you.
Jamie, could you turn on your video, Andrew? So we can hear you and see you?
She's highlighted, so.
It's because of kids at screen. Jamie, did you have a comment for public comment?
Synchronous.
no, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, well, you should be watching this through the live stream on YouTube and not through the Zoom. The Zoom's only for public comment.
Yeah, it wouldn't come up, it wasn't live streaming.
So just check some-
Check on Twitter and there's he just posted it, so before the meeting. Okay, well, I guess that is it for public comment.
There's a message in the chat. Is
Now
there?
we're on to agenda item, new business.
So Wayne, do you want to try to get into StreamYard and then we could get out of Zoom and then we would get rid of all of the,
Echo.
we get rid of all the echo. The last email I just sent you.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah, all right, that's best we can do.
Did you want me to try?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, here's your new link. And here it is, StreamYard.
Yeah, it
You're
probably,
entering a broadcast studio. Pro tip, up to 10 people can join. Here I am. You see me?
no, not yet. Yeah, we got you. You gotta get out of Zoom now.
Get out of Zoom.
All right, Wayne, you're good. Dana, you're good. So everybody's out of Zoom. Let's see, let me stop sharing that. So we have, everybody's here. And there shouldn't be any feedback. Bill, you can hear me from the phone or can you hear me regular?
I hear you on my phone.
Yeah, you can, sorry. All right, there's no more Zoom.
No more Zoom.
Okay, so should not be any more feedback. Is that better?
I'm with Emily and Lisa.
Oh, I know, sorry.
Awful.
All right, now there's not any Zoom. Now there's not any sound. Yeah, I got you. Okay, so just so you know, if you're in school committee and you're not here in the room, you're on mute. Bill, you'll have to just say you have a question because we can't see you, but we can hear you. But for Emily, Lisa, and Wayne, if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and then you can speak. But this should work just fine. You're not showing up as being muted on ours. I just wonder if it's something on yours, if there was like you had to enable a microphone maybe.
Well,
There you go.
Oh wait, that don't work.
There's a microphone on the bottom left. It's pink if it's mute and it's white if it's unmuted. I'm gonna go back and mute mine now.
okay, am I on
There you
mute?
go.
or
Oh, Bill,
not?
you're on good. You're good. We can see you. You're
Okay.
good now.
Thank you.
Hanging up.
Still hearable?
Yep, we got you. You're
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, everybody's gonna hear you.
All right, great. New business. School committee goals. Discuss and approve. Chris, do you want to go over them?
Yep. So, Marie and Joanna and I came up with these goals that we passed out at the last meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to go through them. We met originally with Justin to kind of go through what the school's strategic plan and his superintendent goals will be, so that we're on the same page. Make sure that we're in alignment, especially given the COVID situation that we're facing for this upcoming school year. Marie and I then met after that and kind of came up with the 4 areas that we felt had to be the most important priorities for our school committee goals. Certainly school safety is of high priority this year. We also felt that communication out with all stakeholders in the district was very important. We also felt that continuing professional development, this is one from last year that we felt we needed to continue and further focus with taking advantage of professional development opportunities that either MASC or the state offers for school committee, kind of learning what we should be doing, how we should be doing things. We did a little bit last year with the superintendent evaluation meeting that we had, but kind of continuing on with some of that. And lastly, to continue with policy that we've been doing, but also with the focus on any COVID-related policies that come up. Joanna took school safety and professional development. I worked on communication, and Marie worked on the policy goals. So hopefully you've had time to go through them. If there's any questions, comments, edits, anything like that. Speak up.
Emily?
Overall, I thought they looked awesome. I think you guys did a great job. My only question, and I mean, it's such a silly nitpicky thing, but under professional development, when you said in addition, so this is like the second sentence. In addition, school committee members will engage in at least one professional development, parenthetical training opportunity of its own or of their, like, I was thinking it should say their own, meaning like the members.
Yep. I think that's acceptable.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for doing this. They look great and I appreciate it.
Okay.
Everyone have anything else to add? Could I get a motion to accept the 2020-2021 Pentucket Regional School Committee goals?
Second.
Roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And me, yes. Great, so those are effective. Next up, we have school committee evaluation.
So I think I now have everybody's forms, whether you sent them to me or gave them to Mary Ann, and I have them now. So I will compile all of that information and get it to you for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did everyone got them in?
Hey, that's great. Thanks, everyone. That's fabulous.
Okay, now, the next item on the agenda is school committee communication subcommittee. That is part of our goals, and we need to make up a subcommittee. Is there anyone that would like to step forward and serve on that committee?
So Dina.
Yes.
So this is the one that I kind of investigated and kind of looked at a whole bunch of different school committees across the area and what they do different. So it would be something that I'd be very interested in. And like I said, I did a lot of the research to kind of figure out what we could do better.
Okay, great. So Chris, would anyone else like to be on the communication subcommittee?
I will.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so on our website, it's still, do we still have a communications subcommittee?
We
It's
do.
still there, you and I are on it.
I know.
Okay.
Remember we dissolved it,
I
or
just couldn't remember what happened.
we inactivated it, and now we're reactivating it with different committee members.
Marianne, can you remind me, do you know which subcommittees I'm on right now?
I would have to go back to my desk and look. I can email it to you.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, you're on the teaching, learning, accountability with us.
I'll email you, Joanna, I'll double check.
I mean, I can try to do it.
I mean, I could do it too.
Yeah, but then you just have to be West Newbury reps on it.
Oh, that's true.
It's probably a little bit of a disservice. I'll help out.
Thank you.
So we have Chris and Joanna.
Chris, Joanna, and Marie.
Oh, and Marie, I'm sorry. Okay.
Now, do we have to make a motion to approve it?
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the communication subcommittee with Chris Redding as the chair and Marie Falzani and Joanna Blanchard?
So moved.
So moved.
Anyone have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna? Bill?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you very much. And now we have return to school update. Dr. B.
Thank you very much again, Madam Chair. Just first, this is a follow-up. Obviously, we've not had a tremendous amount of time since our last Thursday meeting. But there is, we found out information shortly thereafter. So I just wanted to go over again some of these numbers. And let me go ahead and change this up for you. So just some of this information about what do these numbers mean. And for those of you who are watching this, if you did not see the Thursday's meeting, we'll try to upload it onto my YouTube channel. Right now, it resides on the Pentucket Regional School District website. If you go to school committee and then you go to videos, you can select that, I believe it's August 13th, the August 13th meeting, and you can watch that video in its entirety. But this is just a follow-up to this. And again, I'm gonna go over these because the numbers seem kind of weird. And you'll see there's a whole bunch of information here that I wanted to share. So this again came out last week. We got this at the start of last week. And they're using, so it's Johns Hopkins University. They use the 5% model to figure out when it's appropriate to do certain events and functions. And we know about in the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we have different phases where we are and rolling things back. And it's not just purely based on the numbers. It's also what are the demographics being impacted. But here you can see, if we're in red, if our community is in red, that means we have 8 daily cases is the average. 8 or more daily cases a day is what we have. And that's positive cases of COVID. And per 100,000. And we know we don't have 100,000, so we'll get to that in a little bit. And if that's the case, if that's where we are, then DESE expects that we will be fully remote. So that is the expectation for how we're going to, if we're in red. If we were in yellow, which is 4 to 8 cases, again, that's daily, average positive daily cases a day, 4 to 8, the expectation is that we're going to be in hybrid or remote. And you only go to remote if there's extenuating circumstances. And we'll get to the next one because the next 2 colors, green and unshaded, that's less than 5. So if you have less than 5, and green is less than 4 per 100,000, but again, that's daily. And that is the DESE's expectations. We're going to be full-time in person, or we're going to be hybrid. And that hybrid is, for us, the extenuating circumstances, I mentioned it before, is we have restrictions on transportation, we have restrictions on space, and we have restrictions on staff. So those 3 obstacles are not feasible for us to overcome in order to do a full-time in-person hybrid. It also was a 3-foot space between, which I don't think any of us felt was, for being in a class all day long, was the wise approach. So what does this mean for our town? So we're not in a municipality, we are a regional district. I just wanted to share this with you. This was the last sentence of an email we got when this came out. Regional schools and others that draw from multiple cities and towns, DESE will issue additional guidance that points to the appropriate data to view for your context. We have not yet received that additional guidance. So I can't come up with a magical number, but let me give you some examples because I think that's a good way to go with this. So first, this is a website. If you go on, this is updated, this is new. It's on MASS's website. You can see that all the data is as of 8/14. This is based off the weekly report. So what you can do is you can move around, and on the other one you couldn't really see, but I can zoom in now.
I'm not seeing anything. It just says example.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Thank you for speaking up. I gotta bounce in between screens here. So just give me 1 second. There you go. You good now, Lisa? Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So on this, you're used to seeing this map with all the color codes. And again, there's the red, there's the green, and there's the yellow. Here's where we are. There you can see Merrimack, West Newbury, and Groveland. We are unshaded. So based on this, we are supposed to be going full in person. But again, because of the extenuating circumstances of the transportation, the space, and the staff, we're going 50%. And these green colors mean the same thing. It's just greens are individual municipalities where they have the numbers. The white, the unshaded is smaller towns. But this map gets updated weekly, and it's based on the last 14 days, the last week's data, but it spans a total of 14 days. And you can see on the key up at the top here, average daily case rate per 100,000. And there's what it is. So 4 cases, and so that would mean, and a place that has green has less than 4 times 14, right? So it's less than 56 cases is what they have. So they're green. Anybody have any questions on this? Again, this is just one resource. So the next question is, okay, well, where do we get this data from? And here it is.
You gotta share.
Oh, sorry, yep, I gotta share it with everybody. All right.
Justin, this is updated daily or how often?
It's updated every week, and I'll show you where it comes from. Let me get you the new screen.
So if it's updated, say every Monday,
Yeah, I think it's.
if something happens on a Thursday and it's not updated till the following Monday, is somebody going to notify you from the state that we're now like green or yellow?
So good question. The answer, I think I shared the same thing with you. I'm sorry. Let me try the different one. Yeah, if the local boards of health will reach out, and when the local boards reach out, they've said that we will be the first group they go to. If there is any situation that's going on that we need to know about that's going to impact our kids, they'll let us know. But this data is, I think it's weekly. You know, it was the 12th, which would put it on last Monday, but it was updated on the 14th, which was Thursday. And these are the reports. These are the reports that come out. And if you want to look it up, it's the weekly COVID-19 public health report. And again, the state's now using the Johns Hopkins model to help them track all this data. But as you go down, you can see it has every single town listed. And on the top, you have the total cases, the last 14 days, the average daily rate. Remember, again, that's the number that gets used to determine what the color is. And so the total tests in the last 14 days, the positive test in the last 14 days, the percent and the change in positivity. So if we look at this, and you can go down and you can scan this, and let's say we go to Groveland. You go down to Groveland, you can see Groveland has had 42 total cases. Right now, it's last 14 days, it's less than 5. We're less than 5, we're unshaded. And it says higher relative case. And the reason why Groveland's higher is because they were at 0 for quite some time. If you go to Merrimack, it's the same. If you go to West Newbury, it's lower because West Newbury is down to 2. Groveland is at 1, Merrimack is at 1, and West Newbury is at 2. So we are all unshaded for that. This is for this reason, and that's where we are pulling this data from. So you might ask the question, okay, well, what's it going to take for us to get into yellow? Again, the previous slide, we don't know that exactly, but we know Georgetown right here. Georgetown's at 7.2 to be in yellow. And yellow, again, would be hybrid unless there's extenuating circumstances. That might be an increase of whatever reason, and you would go from yellow. You would go from hybrid to fully remote. But Georgetown has about 8,700 people in it. Our 3 towns about 20,000, give or take. So 2.5 times. So they have 9 cases on average. So 2.5 times that, we're looking at about 22, 23 to get us into yellow. And that could be lower because it might be only at a 7 or a 6 for us. But we are not anywhere close to those numbers. And again, I think if you go back to that map, the town-by-town map, that does a really good job of showing where things are. So in addition to that, I wanted to share with you a couple, just some video clips. I think you should be able to see this. You should be able to hear it as well. But we're going to start off first with just, we need good medical information. We need good science. So this is Johns Hopkins is world renowned. Mass General Hospital, world renowned. The American Academy of Pediatrics. We are educators. these are the people we're going to for the medical information. So when we look at the Harvard Public Health, so there's some small short clips, and Lisa or Emily, if you can't hear this when it starts playing, let me know. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this right now.
And what I want you to focus on is new cases per 100,000 per day. Per 100,000 just kind of standardizes it across the population. So we can talk about different counties with different populations. And then the second is percent positive in the state. Ideally locally, but a local percent positive is hard. Here's the way to think about percent positive. Percent positive is a way of saying, like, how many cases are you missing? Once you start getting percent positives of 7, 8, 9% of your tests are coming back positive, you're missing a lot of cases. And so whatever your case number is too low, and it's actually probably much higher than that. And so California set up the thing of 7 cases per 100,000 per day, or 3 per 100,000 per day, and a percent positive greater than 8. There are lots of other numbers you can look at, deaths and hospitalizations. I would largely say, unless you really want to get into the details of the modeling, focus on new cases per day and percent of your tests that are positive. And that'll give you a pretty good feel.
There's a couple other of these I wanted to share with you. So this is about the whole complexity of it all.
We've taken these conversations and made them sort of this very simplistic, like, do you want to get kids back to school or not? Or let's get them back as kids don't transmit as much. And I have tried, at least as the best as I can, to say, like, this is a very complex ecosystem here. And we do have adults, and we do care about them. And we care about them as people. We care about them like they're fun. Like, if teachers start getting sick, first, that's awful unto itself. Second, the school's going to get shut down. Like, we can't have these very narrowly defined conversations like, do kids transmit or not? It is much more complicated. There are these big spill-on effects on parents. Parents feel anxious about sending kids back to school. It's true that kids generally don't get as sick, but some kids do get sick. Right. And so, like, we can't also just totally blow that off. So my take in general has been, we have to have these open conversations. We have to understand the costs of keeping kids at home as well. And then we have to put our best effort forward and give it a shot in places where it's reasonable to try.
And here's one on what should you prioritize in the school?
But the standard answer of public health folks is that we have to do all of these things. Masks really matter, and distancing really matters, and kind of disinfecting and social, and deep cleaning of schools really matters. Ventilation matters. I'll tell you what I think is most important. I think there's been a little bit of a distraction around all the like deep cleaning and disinfectant. I am unconvinced that fomite surfaces are a major source of infection. So I'm also not completely convinced that 6 feet is so critical in schools all the time. I'm not suggesting we all gather together in a tight assembly hall. Like, we've got to maintain some amount of social distancing. But since nobody can do everything all day, if I had priorities, I would put priorities on ventilation of the building. So if you can keep windows open, critical. Any amount of fresh airflow, you got to keep airflow happening. If you can upgrade your ventilation system, there are portable ventilation things that are not great, but they can be a little added help. That I would prioritize massively. And second is I would prioritize wearing masks massively. If you can get kids to wear masks all day, look, if they need breaks, every couple hours, kids go outside, can take off their mask. I'm fine with that. Whatever you need to do, none of this is easy. But masks and ventilation are the 2 things I would prioritize most. Spacing, I'd prioritize some, and cleaning stuff. Like, I'm not saying don't wash your hands. Like, get kids to wash their hands. But like, that to me is not the make or break of what's going to make a difference in schools.
And I'll just speak to that real quick. Those are things that we obviously have in the plans when we walk through the buildings. I know our facilities, they're putting screens up, so we have windows that are open. Right now, we've said before, in the middle school in particular, whenever they did the remodeling, they did not put screens in the windows here. So they're going to go ahead and make sure that all the screens have windows. They're going to use Velcro pieces, so the teachers have access. That way, I mean, they can open the windows anyway, but that would prevent any bees or anything like that coming in. And then the importance of the education is just the last short clip here.
I would really love for us to walk away from this realizing and underscoring the importance and urgency of education. That it's not this side thing, a nice to have, but it's actually critical. It's a critical industry for our society, for moral reasons, emotional reasons, social reasons, economic reasons. You know, that's one thing I'm hoping we'll walk away with.
It has been really striking to me that we have spent the last few months debating whether to open bars, whether to open restaurants. And it's like, to me, this is not a close call from a priority point of view. Schools trump pretty much everything else. And yet we have given it so little attention until now. And one of the things I hope we do walk away is recognizing that intricate link between public health and education. Yeah. How education really drives public health, how public health helps drive education, that the two communities that we live in, that you and I live in, Bridget, that our missions are actually incredibly aligned, right? And if the educational mission fails, it's incredibly harmful to public health, and if the public health mission fails, it's incredibly harmful to education.
So again, those were some good clips to show, only because it shows the complexity. Again, I think you pointed out something you all know, you've heard me say before, and that is, you know, we go through and we have all the time, we're telling you, we just got this information, and then there he is setting it right there. And we talked about the two towns, the two of us, he's talking about the educators and the departments of public health having to work together and to make sure what's done makes sense and is in the best interest and the best health of the employees, the students, and the community. So that's kind of the important part. Then this is not a full interview, but this is, I think, another really important. This is going to be about 7 minutes we're going to watch here. And I think there's Dr. Fauci, right? We all listen to Dr. Fauci. We all feel like he gives good, sensible information. So I just wanted to go ahead and share this part with you as well. This comes to us because this gentleman here lives in Concord. They had him on a live interview. He does a podcast. And so they got it all together. So here we go. Right now talking about that.
That's where you want to make sure you don't say something that people scratch their heads and say, that doesn't make any sense. So if you're going on a hike in the woods and there's nobody around for 1,000 yards, you don't really need to wear a mask. What you want to do is that have it with you so that if you happen to be put into a situation where there is an inability to physically separate, you can immediately go, okay, do that. But the idea, I mean, like last evening, I was jogging in my neighborhood and I could see, I live in a tree-strawn neighborhood in Washington. I could see like a couple of 100 yards ahead of me. Nobody was there. You know, I had my mask like this and I was running along. And then as soon as you start to pass people where you can't stay a good distance, just, you know, do that, period. I think when we start to ask for unreasonable things, that people start scratching their head and say that doesn't make any sense. So masks clearly indoors. I mean, there's almost an instinctual reaction to say, oh, I'm inside with a group of people I know, so I can take my mask off. See, what you're forgetting is indoors, clearly, particularly if you can't physically separate, is much worse than outdoors.
Yeah, and I think we all go through that calculation in our heads, even when we're with people we quote unquote know. Then you think, oh, but wait, that person had this person over last week, and who knows where that person, I mean, the safest thing is obviously to wear a mask. So another thing that's really been, I think is on everybody's mind, collective thoughts, we're talking about school. And we're all getting different plans as parents, and we're all contemplating different things and debating them, and in some cases arguing with each other about them. And I want to ask you about this, the back to school plan. I happen to have a 10-year-old, so we're talking about 5th grade, and I have a wife who is a college professor, and I'm in the Boston area, and they're both going back to school, and you know, I'm a little terrified of this. So the school plan on the college level, I'll just tell you, this is Northeastern University, is there are multiple tests that students are going to be doing when they come back to campus. My wife will be taking multiple tests. They have a plan in place, they say, if someone is positive, to quarantine them immediately. That said, the idea of thousands of college-age kids coming into our city and joining up is scary. So tell me your views on first the college level.
Yeah, so it really depends. First of all, I think it's important for people to understand college is different than elementary school because you have people coming in from all different parts of the country. In general, when you're talking about schools, and I'll get to college in a second, Jeff, is that it depends on the location that you're talking about at the state, city, and county level. You know, the CDC comes out with a designation of green, yellow, red. Green, a certain test positive, certain number of cases per 100,000. Yellow, same thing. Is it 5 to 10% positive and 10 to 100 cases per 100,000? And red, greater than 100. If you are in a green zone, in general, there's much, much less punity or a good degree of impunity vis-a-vis risk of getting infected. But you should have in place how you address when you get an infection. If you're in a red zone, then you really have to think twice whether it's prudent to bring the children back to school. If you're in a yellow one where there's levels of infection, you should have a plan. And the plan should be, can you safeguard the health, the safety, and the welfare of the children and the teachers? What do you do when a child gets infected? Do you have mask wearing? Do you have the degree of physical separation? How long can you do outdoor classes? And what classes can you do outdoors? Can you keep children segregated when they're outside playing? Because groups together are the things that do it, particularly indoor. So always remember, outdoor, always better than indoor. Masks are very helpful, depends on where you live. The thing that's more complicated is at the university level, because you can't say, well, I'm in a green zone and the children all live within the zone of the school. So you're not having people coming in from all over. That's the reason why colleges have very, very different plans. Many of them test everybody before they even can come in. And then once you know that the core baseline is negative, then you could do intermittent screening in the sense of doing screening to see if you might miss some below the radar screen types of infection. Because you want to get those, identify them, and separate them. So again, I'm not exactly sure what the details of Northeastern is going to be, but different colleges have different protocols to allow many of the classes, not all, because remember, you may want to have a hybrid. You may want to do some online. What about teachers who are in the risk group? Do they want to be face-to-face in a classroom? They may want to do it online. So again, there's a lot of variability depending upon where you are.
Our fifth grader, you know, they're supposed to wear masks every day inside all the time. They have mask breaks outside. This is according to the plan, which every plan always says this plan could change. And then also, they are only going for a half day, and physically they can choose to, and they will have instruction in the afternoon online. And then there's also an option you can do total remote learning. But, you know, for many parents who went through that in the spring, and let's not forget the financial impact and the fact that many parents have to work, it's almost unbearable to consider how we parent at home and work, you know?
Yeah, that is true. And that is the reason why we say as a default position, the thing you should try to do the best as you possibly can is to get the children back to school. And then there's that big however or but. It depends on the things that I just said. Where do you live? What zone? What can you do? I mean, obviously, it's a great strain not only on the individual parents and the family, but on the economy in general, if you start disrupting it by not having people go to work because they have to stay home and watch their children. That's the problem.
Yeah. Dr. Fauci.
So I wanted to show that clip as well. And I think it feeds in nicely to, I have to pull up another, I can go ahead and pull up another screen here. But you heard Dr. Fauci mention this. This is what the CDC uses. This is what Massachusetts is using now. This is what we have now as a basis and what's going on in our community. And I just went over that in the previous map. So we know what's going on in our community. Could that change? Yes. Could our decision change based on numbers? Yes. But right now, Dr. Fauci is talking about green. If you're in red, that's where the concern comes in about it. And I don't think anyone in this room, if we went red, would be upset if I said, look, this is not going to work. But now, again, I just wanted to show the breadth of science in medicine to people that are in those fields. Because, again, we're educators, that's where we're going to get our cues from. So here's where we are now. Groveland with 1 case, Westonbury with 2 cases. There's previously 4, and Merrimack stayed the same. They're at that 1 case. And these are the things that Dr. Fauci just mentioned as well. And again, that parent runs that podcast in Concord. So it's close. I mean, it's nice to have that feedback about our general area. And what you heard from that parent there is no different when you hear a parent from any other town say, hey, we have these plans, these are the options that people have. Some people aren't happy with all of them because of the spring experience. We understand that. And we're going to continue to do the best we possibly can. But these are the considerations. Like those positive tests, if they start increasing, why are they increasing? Where are they increasing? Is it at school-age children? Is it in senior citizen housings? Are they people who are connected to the school? So it's all of those factors that we're constantly going to be looking at. And I think, Lisa, you had asked that question about, okay, well, if it's in between, if it's a Monday and it's a Thursday, and there's all of a sudden like 6 tests come back positive, one, the Board of Health, if it's impacted, someone from there hopefully will contact us. Remember, this is, if it's a student or a parent, the parent has to notify us, or they have to notify the Board of Health. The Board of Health will find out eventually, and then they let us know. But there again, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize this. But you can see in additional considerations, that bottom slide again, there's going to be additional guidance coming for our data points. But I just wanted to share that. I know we covered a lot of information last Thursday, but I thought those clips were really important for everyone to see. Okay, that's what I have for our return to school update.
Thank you, Dr. B. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Lisa?
I have a question. So I understand that we're going to make masks mandatory, but what do we do in regards to ventilation? And when it comes to keeping windows open, it's going to be really cold come the winter months. So what's that going to look like?
Yep, so we'll start with the windows first. The windows, they have to be open. If it's, I think even some of the things I've watched from the CDC, if it's 40 degrees outside, it's going to have to dress appropriately. Like those windows have got to be open for ventilation, and that doesn't matter doesn't matter what your school is. The other part of that has to do with like the ventilation that's in the classroom. So all throughout the summer and every year, our custodians go through and they pull all the split systems or the old systems that are in where we're Space Point right now. Way back by Dick, there's a system that pumps in air. So all those filters, they get cleaned. There's air exchange handlers. They're in the ceilings. So all of those, and all the filters get changed. We have the filters beyond what the CDC recommends. I forget what HEPA it is. No one here knows. Whatever the number is, I know we're above that in our systems.
Did I hear you mention the word screens?
Screens, yes, like the middle school. So it'll be a minimum of 2 windows. That'll be right now. We're going to start off with 2 windows, make sure we get all those. If we can add more windows into the middle school in particular, where screens do not exist. Right here, we're looking at that. So we'll make sure there's at least 2 windows in every single classroom. And if those of you who did walkthroughs on those stifling days, and we opened up the windows, it is a big burst of air that comes through those windows. So it's super helpful.
Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, it's really for Justin. One of the things that's been popping up is the use of ultraviolet lights to disinfect classrooms. Have you had any information on that sent to you?
So Bill, I get probably about 120 something pieces of information. I've read through a couple of the early research on the ultraviolet lights, putting those into, they're actually not even just they actually have them where you can put them into air systems, HVAC systems. We don't have some of the systems, obviously in our buildings, we don't have any HVAC, the new building of course would. But yeah, we've looked into them. We've not purchased any of those right now. What we're using, and I think what Dr. Jha had mentioned is, making sure that on the deep cleaning that we're going through it and in those classrooms, we are using those fog machines. And Force of Nature is what we use because it's natural, non-toxic. It doesn't impact. You can spray it on your hand to kill, and it kills corona, or based on the literature, it kills coronavirus. They added that. We've been using it previously, but based on their updated information, it also kills the virus that causes COVID-19.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Emily?
Lisa had her hand up first.
Oh, Lisa.
At some point, are we going to discuss the remote aspect of return to school tonight?
What would you like to know?
Just we've been receiving a lot of emails from families that are concerned that the remote model isn't equal to the hybrid model.
Okay.
And I mean, it concerns me because, I always say no child left behind. And I feel like this population of kids is certainly being left behind from where things are at right now. So I was just wondering, what can we do to try to make sure that this population of kids isn't left behind, because they shouldn't be, it's almost like they're being reprimanded because they can't come to school. Well, not reprimanded, but, they're not getting the same level of education.
Yeah.
And I think, there is a chance that, within a few months of being in school, we could eventually go remote.
It's true.
And we're all going to be there. So we don't want it to look quite like what it did last spring when we weren't prepared for that. So
Yeah.
can't we start making it a more robust program now?
So I can recap all of what we've covered the last few meetings just quickly with, the first part is if we go to a full remote model, the big changes we're going to have in a full remote model is, number one, attendance is mandatory. Attendance is mandatory anyway. Number two, things are graded. There's assessments that have to be done, and it's a full day if we're in the full remote model. In the hybrid model, you don't have. So I'll give you an example. If we say I'll pick a fifth grade class at a school. So I have a fifth grade class at school. We're in the hybrid model. Those fifth grade teachers are working with children in front of them. They are not working with the other cohort that's at home. At home, those fifth grade teachers on that one day have put together plans so that those children who chose for the full remote, and by the way, there are 3 options for the full remote. So I'm talking about the hybrid full remote, which I think over 75%, Mr. Conway, 75% of our families selected the teacher remote part. So they're planning for those children to make sure that they have the curriculum that they're going to be covering face-to-face in school on those days. So I think what needs to be understood out in the community is we are not in any position, no school district is, to go ahead and say, hey, you know what, for every single grade level, for every single subject area, we're going to have an additional person who's going to go and work with you online. If that's what a parent wants, that parent, they have the option to come into the hybrid. If they choose not to, we certainly understand that, but they do have the Florida option. They also have the homeschool option if they want. But there's nothing, and I know I've said this before, and I stand by this. You are not going to get me teaching Ms. Trotta, if she was in my classroom and we're face-to-face, she is going to get far more from me than Mr. Conway, who's just remote. There's no way around that. Face-to-face is always going to be more impactful than remote would be. What we do have set up, and we're working on still, because we're trying to work with staff to see what we have, again, the goal would be that those students who are fully remote, that a teacher checks in with them. But we can't have this expectation it's going to be a 5th grade teacher that checks in with that 5th grade remote student on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when the 5th grade teachers are doing full remote. It might be a 2nd grade teacher that checks in, and it's hey, how are you doing? What are you stuck with? Where are you? And that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be, I'm going to sit with you all day for an hour and go over pieces. They might go and help them troubleshoot some of their items, but it's not going to be something that's an hour, 2 hours at a time that they're going to be there if they're fully remote. I think if that's a concern, then possibly doing the hybrid if they can, possibly doing the Florida model, those might be good options. But if you are going to take the 50% and you're going to make it 100% remote, you'll hear from the teacher on Mondays. I think that's the goal, is for the teachers to reach out to all students. And some teachers may decide to do, okay, we're going to bring in everybody for a morning meeting just to check in, just make sure everything's before everybody goes remote and the other students that are there in class. But that's going to be a teacher decision. That's not going to be something we're going to force, because each teacher sets up their classroom differently. I don't know if I would do that in my biology classroom.
And I think I can add some examples. So, because now that we get some of the survey results and we now know what the actual need is, what we're talking about is we're going to be able to assign staff members to support the students who are in full remote. And in assigning them there, if there are, we run 8 3rd grade classrooms across the district in the 3 different towns. If there are 20 total 3rd graders who are choosing to do full remote, most people's logical conclusions are, so run 7, and then you can have that one teacher do a full class of all the remote kids. And from a number point, that makes a lot of sense. But the reality is it's 7 kids from one town, 5 from another, and another 5, 6, 7 from another. And when you start to do that, you realize you don't have the economy of scale. You still need the 8 teachers there. So we don't have the person to do that. We would have to hire 30 more staff.
That doesn't make sense to me, though. Like, it shouldn't matter what town the kids are from. They're remote. They're they're just virtual through a computer.
But Ms. O'Connor, what I'm saying is you still need the classrooms.
Yeah, so if you take the 5th grade example and there were 4 teachers, if you take one teacher out that's going to do that remote, there's now a group of children who have nobody there with them.
Yeah, but what Mr. Conway just said was that if we have 8 classrooms across the district, all at the same grade level, it doesn't matter what town they're from, they're all learning the same curriculum because we want them all to be equal. And if we have 20 kids in that grade level, regardless of what town they're from, go remote, then that means there's one teacher that we don't need that can be matched up with 20 students.
That's not correct.
Ms. O'Connor, what I'm saying is if those kids come from 3 different towns, we still need the 8 people to run those 8 classrooms, because taking 5 kids from one classroom does not allow me to eliminate that classroom. If we had everyone in one building, if all 3rd graders were literally in one building, we could consolidate like that. We could make use of staffing that way, and we could do that. That is not the setup we have. So we're really not able to do that. It's economy of scale, and we don't benefit from it because we're spread out. So what we are going to do, so what people can understand is, if, let's say, for instance, we have about 35 3rd and 4th graders who are doing full remote, we are going to have probably one staff member who would be assigned to those 35 students. That staff member is not planning the curriculum for them. They're not assessing them. But they're the ones who will be the regular daily contact for those students to help them with their learning. What we don't want to do is we don't want to promise to people that they're going to get 2 hours a day of live instruction from that person, because I don't think that's realistic. But what will probably happen is if they're doing their math work and they need support, that's the person that they can go to, and that person can help them. That person may say, you know what, tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'm going to get offered to all the third graders I'm working with here, and we're going to do a math lesson on a similar topic. But all those kids are in 8 different classrooms or in 3rd and 4th grades, so they're going to have, it's a different type of teaching job. They're not planning the curriculum. They're supporting the students with their learning. The kids doing it will get some live support and live instruction, but it's going to be support based on what their homeroom teacher has prepared for them. So they will be able to have live interaction with the teacher who will have, I can't say it's a 3rd grade teacher, but it will be someone who's licensed in that area and be able to support them with that. And that's what will happen. And they will have live instruction and support.
And I would say, Mr. Conway, there's one piece that we got to make sure we add on. Right now, he's talking about elementary. Once you start getting into secondary, it is a whole different ballgame.
Yep.
So if you're not licensed in biology and all the biology teachers are in the classroom, you're going to have someone who's going to be coming out that might be, it's a check-in. And that is the reality of what we have for options at our disposal.
Now, I know that there's been some concern raised by various parents in regards to the high school AP courses.
Yeah.
So what can we do for those kids that are remote?
And we have some options for kids who have already registered for AP courses, but they're going to be remote. There are options for them to take remote AP courses. Some of those are offered through the Florida model. Additionally, for students who really are sort of in a position where the Florida model doesn't have those, they could continue to do the full remote with us and interact with their teacher, or they could look at potentially talking to high school administration around a VHS model.
VHS is virtual high school.
Virtual high school model, and that could be a potential solution for the kids who are in those AP classes that are sort of the singleton classes. Now that is done virtually, but it's done by paid by seat for a particular class, and there's more instruction that goes along with that.
And how does it work when it comes to grading? Because transcripts at that point are important, right?
Yeah, so anything, we take all VHS grades and they go on our transcripts. We will take all the Florida version, Florida Virtual School, those will go on our transcripts. And anything that's part of the Pentucket model obviously is just graded by our own teachers.
Okay. And the same thing with the articulation agreements that we have with NECO and Merrimack?
Yeah, so if those classes double over for, they show up on our transcript, our students' record. Yep.
Okay. All right, now what's up with the special ed department? I know I had asked that before, and I know Dr. Jarvis was waiting to hear from the state, or is there a status update on that?
Could you be a little more?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Okay, so I know that, the kids that are, got robust IEPs, I guess, if you will, are going to be in the hybrid model 5 days a week. But there's going to be a population of kids that have to go remote for medical. So what's that going to look like? Like, how are you going to be able to implement an IEP and an agreed to service delivery grid for kids that are remote?
Yeah, and we're still awaiting guidance from the state on exactly how they expect to do that. But in the end, we have to meet FAPE, free and appropriate public education for those students. So as they have services outlined within their IEPs, we'd be seeking to meet those services. So we'll have some staff who will be able to do that remotely. It may not look exactly like it does, particularly if it's B-grid service. Obviously, you can't really replicate B-grid service, but you can provide service to support their learning in their general ed classes that they have. And as far as related services, we continue to do that. My understanding is the department plans to issue, I don't know when, but plans to issue templates for learning plans, which would outline what districts could work with families on, specifically around those who are in remote learning and have chosen to do that, be it a health reason or whatever the reason is, to outline what their services may look like, because you obviously you can't replicate the exact school day when they're in remote learning.
And if I could just add on, we've gotten some messages that say it's not fair that these children are able to go 4 or 5 days. I just like to say, we're talking about our high needs special education students who are in district programs and our ELL students. Our ELL students, they don't speak English. Yeah, they need more time. Our students who are in our district programs need more, like, it's apples and oranges. And they need that time. And I think many of you know, you worked in education as students who are in those programs. It's so critically important that they are with us, that they are participating, they are engaging, and they have someone that they're communicating with every single day in person. In the situations when you're not, it becomes extremely challenging for everyone involved.
Emily.
I would really like to hear more about the remote aspect of the hybrid plan, because that's what most of our students are going to be experiencing is the hybrid plan, and what they will be getting as part of that is in-person instruction on some days, which is great. But I feel like we haven't heard as much about the details of the days when they are hybrid, when they are remote within that model. So if they're, everyone's remote on Monday, beyond the office hours that teacher is offering and maybe the morning meeting, what else is their day going to consist of? What is it going to look like? And likewise on their other 2 remote days, what's that going to look like in terms of how much contact and synchronous versus asynchronous instruction?
Sure. You want to answer? Okay. And we're still, we're working with our Kentucky Association of Teachers to make sure that, they're in full understanding of this. But generally, and we did this in our PD, so we modeled a little bit in our PD what we would want for the administrators. We did professional development the last 2 days for the administrators. We modeled what we would want the teachers to think about. And I showed the administrators, this is how you plan a lesson, thinking that people who are remote can go through all of this without doing it in person. And then I adjust some of it because I have people in front of me. So the example is we used Pear Deck, and we actually just paid for a Nearpod subscription. Basically the same concept, and it's Google Slides, but you make it interactive. And there are components that get added in. And that's going to be one of the expectations, particularly from like grades 3 and on up, that we're using something like Nearpod. And Nearpod is just how you use Google Slides, for instance. It's an example. And our platforms are Seesaw at K-2 and pre-K-2, and then Google Classroom from there on in. Those are the primary platforms that students would be going through. And if you were a teacher and I was preparing to teach on Tuesday, and I was teaching a concept, I would want to prepare my lesson for the kids who are at home first. I'd want to think about how do I want to make sure the kids who are at home get access to this content. So it might be a video that I want them to watch. I might record myself for in a 5-minute screencast or something to that effect, and I'm going to put that there for them. And then in Google Classroom, I'm going to have the work that I want them to proceed through. When I go in to teach the class, I'm going to start again with a clear objective, so everyone knows the same objective that the kids have there. A lot of the kids we might be doing Google Classroom, maybe on all of our individual devices in the classroom, or it might just be up on the smartphone. And I'm going to show them that. And maybe instead of doing the video, I might actually present and do something on the whiteboard, and we might have more interaction. Clearly, that's going to be better to be in person, but it does match the objective. So it's all about objective-based teaching. What's your objective? What do you want as an outcome at the end? And that's what we really expect. So then when you do that and then you come in the next day, you know that the kids who come in on Wednesday learn the same thing. And you're going to want to do a check with them in the morning or in the first period of the first section of the class to make sure they understood. But at the same time in Google Classroom or Seesaw, those students who are at home the day before are expected to submit work, submit answers to questions or drawings, whatever it is, whatever grade level or subject matter it is. And you as a teacher have an opportunity to see that before they come in. So you already know whether they took away what you wanted to, and you can correct some of those things right away. You're going to have, so an elementary classroom might have 7, 8, 9 kids in it, and then you'll have another 7 or 8 kids at home. So it's the same amount of grading, and you have the kids in front of you, and you have the kids who are at home who are submitting work.
And I'll just add on to that. I think it's really important to understand, everybody who's watching, you know, we use Pear Deck, we talk about Nearpod. If I was I'll stick with the fifth grade teacher. If I'm a fifth grade teacher, I might have no clue what Mr. Conway was just talking about, right? Because I've been out. I mean, that's not what we did in the spring. So when I come back, that's why those days are so critically important, right? Those first couple of days, it's about protocol, safety, getting on, but then it's all about how do you use these pieces in order to plan for that remote piece. We know that's really important. We know that, like I said before, we can't be in a situation where what you did on Tuesday is a repeat of what you did on Wednesday. So the students who, like I think what Ms. Conway said was a great example, what you present, when you present for remote, having that at the forefront and then making sure you go over that with your students in face-to-face so that when Tuesday happens, so when the next day happens, everyone's on the same page with the content and the skill. It's just that the remote people have not had that face-to-face interaction, but they will the following day. We cannot get in a situation where we're only covering half of the curriculum. But those 11 days are so important. And when we look at the professional development that we've set up, I would say about 70% of it.
So about 30% of it is going to be us giving them really direct PD around some of these tools.
Including bringing in people who know how to use them and have used them in other places.
Best practices around remote and blended learning. And then 70% of the time is going to be teacher time to now use those tools, start to plan and prepare, on top of, thinking about the physical arrangement of your room as well. But those are the types of things that we're going to be doing. I'll add this too, especially for our K-8 families. One thing we did invest in as well is InSync, not the band, sorry to disappoint anyone, but InSync is the virtual platform that's related to Eureka Math. So what it does is it takes all of the paper and it puts it into fillable PDFs, and it attaches actual instructional lesson videos from actual Eureka teachers. So not only can our teachers use it remotely, they can use it with the kids in the room. So for when kids are at home, they have access to that. And it's certainly a step up. We were using the Khan Academy videos that were connected to Eureka. This is done by Eureka. And then it's the actual fillable PDFs to work through it that can get submitted in Google Classroom. And even better news, Infinite Campus released what was in beta for a year to integrate Google Classroom into Infinite Campus, just in time.
And one final thought on the remote piece of it. Teachers were very, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I remember it was sometime in July, I sent out an email to all the teachers and I said, listen, what you can do if you really want to know what to prepare for the upcoming year, just prepare to get your curriculum up online and think about what is the best way that I can evaluate remotely? What is the best way I can deliver remotely? Do I record videos? Like that was the task. If someone asked me today, if a teacher came to me and said, what can I do to get ready? It's going to be the same thing. What can you do to get your curriculum up remotely and be effective? And that's, again, for people who aren't tech savvy, who haven't gone through this, that's why it was so critically important that the commissioner gave those additional 10 days, because the overwhelming majority of time is going to be spent on those tools for them to become familiar with. And so it's not a surprise to hear, certainly not from parents because you had the spring experience, but also from teachers to say, look, I don't know how to do this. This isn't going to be possible. Yeah, because you don't know. We've not gone through and shown you, and we haven't given you the time. Like you've not sat down with them.
I can say we sent out a lot of links and opportunities for people to do a lot of this.
That's absolutely.
And a large number of our staff voluntarily
did
this, and they participated. And our administrative team, for a lot of them, using or seeing Pear Deck and I'd say I probably did it at a novice heading towards moderate level. But I've only been using it for a month, so I often say this about technology. I said it as a building principal and I say it as assistant superintendent. I'll learn about something and see how this can be used. I'll learn it enough to introduce it to everyone. And while I introduce it, I am the foremost expert in the room and in the entire district of how to do it. And then 48 hours later, I'm the least knowledgeable person on how to do it. And that's what will happen.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I think Lisa just raised her hand.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you. Lisa?
Okay. One last question I had is, if things do change with our current numbers in the towns, how quickly can we go from hybrid to remote?
Yeah, so overall, the plan here would be, we have banked 3 professional days still. So
Contractual professional days, not the.
yeah, all right. So 184 days is what the teachers have. They effectively have it. They've got the 10 days. So we have 3 days still in our pockets. If we run into that situation, we'll see where we are. But I think at that point, it could be it's similar to what happened in the spring. We might say, hey, we're at a point now, we're gonna have to hold up. Tomorrow, we're gonna go start full remote, but we're gonna have it as a teacher PD day. And if we need a second one, we can put a second one. And then the following day, we go full remote. In that context, I do have the ability to make that decision and then inform the school committee, who can later endorse that decision or say go back the other way. But I would obviously let you know before I go ahead and do that and the reasons why. But we can, and if that happened right now, if the numbers were coming pouring in right now, the Board of Health, I'd put a phone call out to all families shortly after saying, here's what we're gonna do. So it's day to day.
So if we did go remote, for whatever reasons, some parents that work full time would have to scramble to find someone to take care of their child on the days that the child was in school. Like if my child was doing, the cohort of Tuesday, Thursday, and I worked on Tuesday, Thursdays, and all of a sudden now we're remote. My child's home Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there's no adult here. I'd have to scramble to find somebody.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard. I think it might be hard for people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was in the spring as well. And again, we don't have the ability to control that virus. I think you're asking like a rhetorical. There's no response I can give to say, oh yeah, here's the plan. This is how we can cover this. Because if we're saying we're going fully remote, it's not going to be a safe environment for children to come back in. And that's one of the primary reasons when we look at the before and after school program, why we're not running that, because we need to first get our feet under us to make sure we understand how this is going to work in person when we start out with the 25% on September 8th.
No, the teacher had spoke earlier, Liz had spoken earlier about, teacher walkthroughs prior to the opening of school. I mean, are they going to have a chance to do that so they can maybe mentally prepare for their classrooms, or?
So the teachers have been coming in and out of the buildings.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. I think Bill had a question after me.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just an observation. Are we going back to Zoom for the next meeting? Because I missed probably about a third of this one, and I thought this was a little more cumbersome than Zoom. I don't know what the other members think, but I think that if we start switching to another format, maybe there would be a way to get everybody together a little earlier. So if there are problems, we solve them with those people that are having trouble getting online.
Yeah, we can talk about it. So this format prevents all the echoing that you were hearing. If we go back to Zoom, we were able to do it when we were not together, to be able to post a video when we were not together. As soon as we came together, it brought too many. So like Dean is taking the comments on Zoom. So as soon as the comments are on Zoom, there's another computer that's streaming this, and those two computers are coming into conflict with each other. That's why you have that that feedback. So, I mean, we can continue to troubleshoot. I think, I mean, I'm impressed everybody's in right now, to tell you the truth. Like that's,
I can't see everybody though.
yeah, well, all you can see, right? So I guess if I went like this, you could see a little bit better of everybody here, right?
No, just the school, just you and Marianne and.
Yeah, you can't see Brent. Yeah, we're.
I can't
No.
see Marianne either. I can see Brooke.
I can't see Marianne either, and I can't see whoever's
see
behind
Joanna.
Dina. Oh, yeah, that is who that is.
I
Hi.
see somebody in the back row. It might be Greg. I'm not even sure who's in the back row. Or it could be Dick. I don't know who it is.
I think it's Dick.
It looks like Dick's mannerisms.
Okay, we need to continue with the agenda. Is everyone,
One quick question.
Chris, you have a question?
So, question, on those days that are really, really hot, what's gonna happen?
So, yeah, that's, if you were with us during some of the walkthroughs last week, it was somewhat stifling in some of the buildings. So you can open up those, but yeah, on warm days, and again, we're I think somewhat fortunate that September 14th is when we would start the first day of school. But on those days, it will be a weather day. I mean, and we'll call it a weather day, just like I call and get a snow day. We try to do our best to look out ahead of time and say, look, tomorrow's going to be too warm. We're just going to be full remote. And at that point, teachers would be able to hop on and just do full remote for that day. And they would follow the schedule. So if you're a high school student, if you're a high school teacher, you just follow your schedule.
Emily.
And at that point, are you still expecting the teachers to be teaching that remote from their classroom or from wherever they can manage? And the reason I'm asking this is not just because obviously if the classrooms are too hot for the kids, they're probably too hot for the teachers, but that the technology organization around teaching live remotely in your classroom is not necessarily the same as like teaching Zoom on Zoom on your laptop. So
I think it depends, like what you just said, we've seen this in all over the place, right? So you might have a situation where your child goes to hop on and the teacher that's there is there, and then it's fading in and out or it freezes. So that really depends. It might be that might be a day where you say, hey, I mean, the teacher knows their classrooms too, right? So they understand, look, I'm fine. Like the sun doesn't come in my side of the room, I'm good. I can come in and I can do it there. I think it's just that one, it really depends on the situation that they have in their class. Because and a lot of teachers, even when the spring, that was a mandated stay-at-home order, right? So we did not have the ability to come into the buildings. But we had a lot of teachers who wanted to come into their buildings, get materials so they could use those materials. Those teachers, if they wanted, they can come in and they could just be right in their classrooms.
for sure. I just know that the setup where like a lot of them have their computers is not necessarily near their board where they might be teaching, which could cause a complication in terms of seeing their kids and what they're presenting. So as long as the teachers have the flexibility to do what works best.
Yeah, they may have that flexibility. I think it's the Chrome. They all have Chromebooks as well, so they should be able to move around wherever they need to do what they got to do. But you're right. In the elementary classrooms, they had I don't know what they are, like desktops from the 1980s that they have there with a monitor, and that is stationary in that space. So they all have Chromebooks that should be able to move around.
True, but just again, I mean, you know what? I don't. It's good. Details. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to depend. I understand.
Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay. Next up, we have policies. And so the Pentucket Regional School District we had to adopt these COVID-19 policies recommended by the Massachusetts School Committee or Massachusetts Authority on School Committees or Association. And these all came right from them pretty much, but I'm just gonna read you, we've developed a new section to our policies, which is section M. And I'm just gonna read you what that means. The school committee takes note of the COVID-19 emergency, resulting disruption of the traditional school day and year, growing concerns of students, families, and the community, and the growing number of issues that will affect public education. Therefore, the PRSD School Committee establishes an emergency interim policy, section M, to promote public safety and safety of students and faculty, maintain to the extent possible the high and efficient level of educational services, ensure support for students in general, and in particular for those at highest risk educationally, as well as those at social and economic risk, and comply with the emergency orders of the governor, and adhere to the extent possible to the guidance of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and other agencies of state and federal government, and expedite the safest strategy for returning students to school. The school committee will approve the final plan submitted to DESE, which will outline its strategy for returning students to school, and will, in collaboration with the superintendent, make such modifications to the back to school plan and district policy, and will authorize the superintendent to suspend, revise, or create protocols to facilitate the safe return to school. The superintendent will designate the appropriate staff members to oversee the safe administration of COVID-19 related policies during the period of the pandemic emergency, and shall make such recommendations to the school committee as needed. The school committee will authorize the superintendent to act expeditiously in executing the back to school plan in accordance with current law and regulation, and where noted, authorize the superintendent to suspend, revise, or recommend policies, rules, and protocols as needed to serve the best interests and safety of students, their families, and the community. The back to school plan shall constitute the policy of the school district during the pandemic emergency, and the superintendent shall exercise the authority provided in law to carry out the plan as needed. Oh, and Marie, would you like to talk on these?
Yes, please. So this was the guidance we were given by MASC. In addition, we've been talking to other school committee, other districts. Before MASC came out and before the state gave us, the guidance for these, we had already started talking about a mask policy. A mask is in facial mask, not a C mask policy, and what would be needed for that. So when you hear policy M, so our policies go A through L. So Dr. Bartholomew, Mr. Hodges, and myself were at the school committee and decided the best way to condense all these policies, because there'll be several more, is to add this new section M that people can go to in the interim. So if you're looking for a homeschooling policy, you might find it under, in general, our section I for instruction, but there's gonna be criteria that Dr. Bartholomew has to follow based on state law right now, based on that homeschooling. In addition, I think one of them was school attendance is gonna be addressed. And Dr. Bartholomew, I think it was, we gave the scenario, there's a policy that if a student were to move into district and that numbers were already at capacity for hybrid, at one school you have the authority to maybe place that student, even if they live in Roland. Yeah. So there's some leeway there that we need to have for the emergency situation. The mask policy is, the MASK mask policy is the regulation and protocols that we'd like to get out to the parents as soon as possible, families, students, administrators. It details what type of mask is gonna be allowed, when you're gonna wear the mask, when and who authorizes a mask break, what happens if you forget your mask, what happens if you violate this policy, and then the science and resources that came together. This was definitely a collaboration between policy subcommittee, the mask guidance, what's best for PRSD. It's kind of all inclusive in this policy. So I don't know if you want to read that, Dina, if people might hear you better. Or do you want me to read it?
Read the whole M policy?
Mask.
The mask
The
policy?
mask policy.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to read all on the second page, it's mostly like legal references and references.
Right.
But I'm hoping, so generally when we do policy, we do look like a few at a time, right, each meeting, and then when all of the sections done, like we just completed section I. Ms. Snapper and myself worked together to get it to Stephen to get up on the website and get it into the handbooks, get it into the administrators' hands. we're not gonna follow that same protocol this time because it's as needed, so this should show up, I would think, on the website sooner than later, so families have it, correct? I think that's what we decided, yeah.
Would this also be something we could just send out via email?
Yeah, if we approve it. Yeah.
Madam Chair, do we make these approvals based on each individual section N, or can we be all inclusive and make a motion to accept section M in its entirety?
Well, tonight we're just doing the mask policy in the section.
Not right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
and the adoption of the new section, I guess, and then the mask policy.
Okay, so would you guys like me to read the policy out?
All right.
We can send out, I think.
Okay, we'll send
As
it
long as
out.
we send it out, it should be good.
Okay.
So do we need to make a motion to approve the inclusion of section M?
I believe so.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the addition of section M to our policies manual.
Second.
Roll call vote, or is there any discussion? Roll call vote, Wayne?
Yes.
Joanna?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Dina, yes. So now can I have a motion to accept policy M?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Is there any discussion yet?
So, the fourth paragraph after the bullets, it states, so, kind of the fourth line down, it says, unless a student or staff member meets the requirements for such as stated above. But I don't see where above it has why people wouldn't have them be wearing. I think it's actually below, so I think
Okay, so below.
you must have tinkered with.
We did, a lot, yes. So just change above to below and that's fine?
Oh, assuming it is below. Does it say?
Yes, it does. It says,
Exceptions to
the
this
next
policy.
one, exceptions to this policy.
So meets the exceptions.
For such as stated below. That was all I saw.
Okay.
And it is bold.
Now do we need to make a motion to accept policy M
Yeah,
as
Emily,
amended?
Emily's good.
Oh, sorry, Emily?
I have a question that is actually about the policy itself. So the piece around face coverings can be disposable or reusable. We'll need to cover them out the nose, be made of at least 2 layers, fit snugly, blah, 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 have the ear loops. And then the next paragraph has the piece around no neck gaiters, bandanas, etc. What about the masks that are technically a neck gaiter in that they go around your neck, but also have all of the bullet points in that paragraph above?
I thought we just said no neck.
Is it a neck gaiter or?
Well, but there
But
are
a neck gaiter wouldn't have the ties around the
ears.
ears.
I think.
So
From the standpoint of, if I'm an administrator in a building and I'm trying to see if people have proper masks.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, this goes around the ears, but also is like it's based on a neck gaiter style, but and this one doesn't have it, but I have ones also that have like that second layer and, you know, a filter pocket. And for some children who are smaller and have a hard time having masks fit them, this style is more comfortable. And where it meets the safety protocols in terms of the layers of cloth or material and the fitting around the face and the, you know, nose wire, etc. I would hate to see kids being told that they can't wear something that is actually not the unsafe for, in terms of like the research that was done that's showing neck gaiters, like the single layer can actually propel more droplets, those ones. So I just, that part makes me hesitate.
So can you hold up that gator again, please? So I think, and I think the concern is, and would you be so kind as to put it on again? Sorry, just for my point.
It's just hard with the earbuds in. Hold on.
Sorry. So if I'm an administrator and I'm walking down in front of a teacher and this is what I see, I have no way of knowing if that's single or double. I think that's the challenge.
Correct.
I think
I know.
what you just said, and I think this is the part when we start getting into, if you're in one of the programs, there's a serious issue, and for that child works it out, the teacher works it out. If the parent sent it in advance, and the administrator said, you know what, this does meet those requirements, I think that'd be fine. But I do think if you start having barrage of middle school and high school students coming in and saying, oh no, this is good, we put people in a really bad situation to be able to identify what is a mask. Is it a double layer or is it a single layer? There's no way to know unless you get up in person, or you may not want to.
Right. So I guess I feel apprehensive about saying no neck gaiter style masks because there are neck gaiter style masks that are safe. And I think that in order for kids to wear masks properly, the best thing we can do is get them a mask that's comfortable and fits them well. So if you're saying in order to have this kind of mask, like a parent needs to notify their teacher ahead of time or whatever, that's fine. I worry about asking teachers and administrators to be the mask police.
It's
when there are things that are safe, you know?
So on that policy underneath that, where it talks about exceptions, the school nurse, the local board of health additionally, so it talks about the principal in consultation with the superintendent. So we do have that flexibility if that building administrator works something up. But again, I think at the beginning in particular, I think it'd be important if a parent plans on providing something like that, that they first get that looked at by the administrator or by the teacher or by the school nurse, and that is made aware, the teacher's aware and administration's aware that was approved.
Okay, because I don't think it has to be, I don't think all kids who have different style masks are doing that because it's a medical necessity, more because their parents want them to keep it on and therefore they've tried to find the most comfortable thing for them.
And it also says in the policy, it says face shields or physical barriers will be considered only on a case-by-case basis. So they could, address it with their teacher or their administration beforehand. Yes, Chris.
So I'm wondering, with what Emily said, if we say based on guidance from health authorities, neck gaiters, parentheses, that do not comply with all of the bullets above. So that would let the pieces that have ear, that have the layer, snugly, I don't know.
No, I think that's a good way to do it.
And they can be as loose as they want to be on the neck.
Well, it would still,
I would just go for the exception. It's, I understand. I think that's a great point in the middle to say, look, yeah, that takes care of that issue. It's just, I think about trying to enforce that would be really hard.
okay.
But I think and we could easily send something out when this policy goes out. We can say, look, if this is exactly what I said, if this is your situation, please make sure that you get that to the school nurse administrator ahead of time. And for people watching, please don't do that tomorrow. Like, wait until we get to, especially those 25% days. That is a great day to bring something in where you have a question for someone to look at.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure we're being as accessible as possible for the smallest kids who are likely to struggle to find masks or have them homemade, because finding masks for small sized people, it turns out, is not as easy as one would imagine.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, so if there are no more comments, we're going to vote. We don't need to make another motion, but vote to approve policy M with just the word above. Roll call vote. Wayne? Yes. Joanna?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Dina, yes. Policy M passes. We go on to policy ACAB, harassment.
Madam Chair, I apologize for interrupting. I'm down to 1% power, so I'm about to drop out. It's not an illness, it's not a hangover, it's just I forgot to charge the iPad before we started. So I will regretfully be signing off now.
Okay,
Okay, thanks,
Thank you,
Bill,
Bill.
appreciate it.
okay, can I have a motion to approve ACAB?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Question.
Yes,
Do we actually send this out to people?
So this policy ACAB and the next one ACABR, which is the procedures that attach to it, are slightly revised to reflect federal changes from the Office of Civil Rights. So this, upon approval tonight, will go into all of our handbooks. Will get posted online. All parents get it. And actually, this was the training that we did today that went a lot longer than I thought it would. But all administrators trained in how to use these procedures and process and understand the changes in the laws.
And then, I think it's the same one, where it's highlighted in yellow
That
Not
indicates
a
a
pop.
change, I think.
on the last thing, that's the name and phone number of the, like, do we actually have to input that into the policy?
So when it gets put into the handbook, so the policy, I don't know that school committee policy requires it, but the handbook would. Your policy just needs to indicate that there is a title coordinator. The handbook, which is the public disbursement. I am currently both the Title IX coordinator and the civil rights.
So it's appropriate to not have your name in the policy.
And then sometimes I wonder if it is appropriate to put an individual's name in a policy like that, because I think if that individual, not me per se, but
the title.
That's assistant superintendent.
so I think what you would say Title IX coordinator is what it is. And because that Title IX coordinator may not always be the assistant superintendent.
But where it says list the name and phone number of the district's Title IX coordinator, I think that's just odd.
In the handbooks, it'll be the current one, because the handbooks change every year.
Right, but I'm wondering if,
You certainly can put it in,
well,
you'll
not
have
put
to
it in, but
readdress
then
it.
just have those lines.
Or we could say differently, district's Title IX coordinator and give for now Mr. Conway as.
I don't even know
contact
you need to do
information.
that, I think just in those places, just say, refer to individual school handbooks for the district. Like to me, it looks like something that MASC gave us and that we didn't input.
So our attorneys gave this to us,
Yeah.
actually.
But I'm thinking
Yeah.
that part was given to be filled in.
Definitely filled in the handbooks. Whether or not you choose to do it, I mean, certainly they can be filled in, it can be part of what you approved tonight. See that?
I just think it's weird to have essentially a blank.
It would be my recommendation then, not to delete it, but to rather
Right.
than, if you're uncomfortable with it, then to actually fill it in and approve it with the names. Yes.
In the policy, in the handbook, it states the name and the phone number right there.
Yeah, I wouldn't delete it, but
Yep.
I think it's odd now. I don't know. I don't know what you want to do. I'm not totally hung up, but just to me look like, oh, this is something I gotta fill out.
so do we want to make a motion to approve it with the Title IX information filled out?
Well,
So
we have a motion.
Okay,
That's right, we
And
have
a
to take care of
second.
the first motion.
okay.
You can,
Well, do we
you
want
can
to,
vote the motion as amended.
okay, do we want to amend it and then vote the motion as amended? Okay. So we have to vote on the amendment? Or
No,
vote
you
as
can just
amended?
vote it as amended.
Okay, so we're gonna add Brent, correct, to the list of, and your phone number?
The office phone number, yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Your private line,
No cell tonight.
okay. Okay, so we're gonna vote on policy ACAB with the amendment of adding the contact information. Roll call vote, Wayne,
Yes.
Joanna. Yes. Bill. Oh, sorry, Emily. Marie.
Yes.
Dick.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Dina, yes.
So Tina, policy ACABR would also need the same amendment in the first subsection A.
Okay,
Motion to accept ACABR with the assistant superintendent's name and contact information as we did in the last one.
any discussion? Roll call vote, Wayne,
Yes.
Joanna. Yes. Bill. That's Emily.
Yes.
Marie.
Yes.
Dick.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Dina, yes. Okay. Ooh, that was the end.
Motion to adjourn into executive session?
Second.
Yes. We are entering into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And we will not be coming back. So, thank you very much.
For the public and for school committee members, you guys just stay on, you're fine, I'm gonna end the recording here.
Don't we need to vote?
Oh, sorry, yes,
Roll call
thank you,
vote.
Ms. Dwyer, thank you.
Sorry.
Roll call vote, Wayne,
Yes.
Joanna. Yes. Emily,
Yes.
Marie.
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Dina, yes.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Thank you.